Welcome to this overview and tutorial of the update to Big Fish Audio's Kontakt Loop Interface, KLI 3.0. When we first came up with the concept for our KLI series, we wanted to create a way for Kontakt users to have total control and flexibility over our vast and professional catalog of loop and sample libraries. With KLI 3.0, we look to build on the features and usability of our KLI series with a whole slew of new features and improvements. Just like previous versions of KLI, all the sounds in any particular product are presented in a few different ways. The quickest way to get started arranging loops is with our kit combos. But we're going to start this tutorial with our slice loop patches. Slice loops are easily one of the most flexible ways loops can be adjusted and manipulated, and with the KLI 3.0 update, we have added even more exciting new features. As with previous versions of KLI, the most extensive editing of a loop can be done through the waveform display, where on any slice of a loop you can adjust the volume, pitch, pan, attack, decay, mashup, which is a new randomizing feature to KLI 3.0, which we'll look at in a minute, and finally a low-pass cutoff and resonance. Really quickly, I want to bring your attention to the keyboard of the slice loop patch. At the bottom are 4 colored playback keys. C0 plays the loop forward, D0 plays it backwards, E0 and F0 are used with our mashup mode, which again, we'll look at in a minute. Beyond this, the blue keys represent each individual slice of the loop and can be used to trigger the loop from any point, or be used as one-shots if we switch over to the one-shot mode. This is a useful way to play your own parts using the individual slices as samples. Looking back at the main section of the patch, you can see that each of these steps can be edited individually to create unique new versions of each loop. To adjust any parameter, simply click on the slice you want to change and edit directly on the waveform. Click the drop-down menu to adjust multiple slices at once. For example, if you want to repeat your edits on the first few steps, you can copy and edit a sequence across the whole loop. In this case, simply select Repeat the first 4 steps, and my panning edit is now copied across the whole loop. In addition, you can increase or decrease all steps by a certain percentage. You can also invert steps, reverse steps, randomize, and reset all steps. You can also copy and paste any edit to either another parameter or to another preset. There are 16 presets available, so you can create multiple edits of the same loop. The copy and paste can be particularly useful if you want to copy all your edits from one preset to another and then use that as a starting point for a second preset. Watch how using the pitch edit allows you to completely change the melodic line of this bass guitar. You can see how many musical possibilities you have with just this one feature alone. Let's look at another new feature to KLI 3.0, which is the Mashup feature. Mashup allows for intelligent randomization of a loop. A good place to start is by clicking on the edit window and select Randomize Current Steps. Now to engage the loop in Mashup mode, I will select E0. Now anytime I press E0 or any of the individual slices with the blue keys, it will play back a random pattern. The way Mashup mode works is the engine looks at the slices you've edited in the Mashup edit window and will tend to play slices that have been given a higher value than those with either no edit or a lower value set. Really though, I find the most fun way to use Mashup is simply to use the Randomize Current Steps function and then cycle through the 128 variations that you get until you find something you like. If while you're cycling through the variations and decide you want to use a variation you already moved past, you're not out of luck. None of the variations will change until you start editing the slices again. Down at the bottom, you will notice a drop-down button with 3 options: Manual Mode, Stutter Mode, and Easy Mode. If you select Manual Mode, you will have options to adjust how many decibels to lower for the stutter effect. The lower the decibels, the more pronounced the stutter will be. Then you can also adjust how long each slice should hold before the stutter occurs. Keep in mind, you will need to have some decay set on the decay edit window for this effect to take place. To edit all steps at once, you can Option-Command click on a Mac or Control-Alt click on a PC, and then raise or lower each step together. This would also be a good place to tell you that you can draw continuous lines of edits across a window by pressing Option on a Mac or Alt on a PC, and then click, and release the mouse in your starting location, then while still holding down the key, click and drag at a second location to create the edit. Continuing on with the different modes, if you select Stutter Mode, this limits your knobs to just the decibel lowering knob. Then the amount of hold per slice will be entirely dependent on the edits you've done to the decay window. Finally, Easy Mode relies only on the edits to the decay window. The BPM drop-down box allows you to change the speed of your loop to either half-time or double-time. While these loops are synced to your host BPM, sometimes you will find a loop you may want to use that is at a significantly different BPM from the one you are currently working in. Say you wanted to use this snare loop, which was recorded at 100 BPM, but your track you are working on is set to 55 BPM. By setting the loop to double time, you are able to keep the feel of the loop while your session remains in a BPM nearly half of what your loop was originally recorded in. One big issue with playing loops back that use this style of tempo stretching is that once you get slower than your original tempo, a lot of the loops can tend to sound choppy and unnatural. By switching the mode to Time Machine Pro, you can play back your loops slower than the original tempo with a much cleaner and natural result. Even in this mode, all the other functions of the Slice Loop patch can still be used, even one-shot mode. You can also edit slice loops via MIDI. By clicking and dragging this icon to your track in your DAW, you will have access to each slice of the loop in MIDI form. This is a great way to quantize or completely rearrange the loop in your MIDI editor. Finally, you can add effects to any slice loop patch. At the bottom of the interface, simply click the tab called Mixer and Effects, and then add any effects you like to your loop. Okay, now let's look at the other main way our loops are presented, with our kit combos. Starting at the top, you have controls to view either channels 1 through 8 or 9 through 16 if there happens to be more than 8 channels in that patch. Next to that is our mode dropdown, which allows for different playback modes, which we'll get into detail later in this tutorial. Next to that is the input queue. This allows for sounds to be triggered and synced to specific time values. For example, if you want a loop to be triggered exactly on the next bar line, click the input dropdown and select bar. Now when you play a loop, it will be triggered exactly on the bar line that comes directly after when you triggered the loop. The last drop-down box at the top allows you to switch between the pan knob, tune knob, or crossfade knob. The tune knob allows you to adjust the pitch of each channel individually. The crossfade is used with the various playback modes, but again, we'll get to that shortly. The mixer portion is as you might expect, with volume controls, solo and mute buttons, as well as individual effects chains for each channel and master effects. Each mixer channel corresponds to the group of blue notes at the bottom. So you can see this first group of blue notes is part of Acoustic Guitar 1, while each other set of blue notes corresponds to the additionally displayed channels. If you want to apply effects to a specific channel, just click the effects button below the volume fader. Below this will display all the included effects. Click on the effects to see the various parameter controls. To turn on that effects, click the top portion of the icon to activate it. There's also a number of send effects as well. You'll want to make sure when using the sends that the send effects themselves are turned on and that the channel sends are turned on as well. To adjust any of the parameters of the send effects themselves, click on the Sends Channel Effects button, and here you can make any adjustments you like. Sends are useful if you want to have the same effect settings across multiple instruments. One highlight from the send effects is our convolution reverb, which contains dozens of high-quality convolution reverbs to choose from. To the right of the effects chain is a CC tab. Click this to assign CCs to any of the effects parameters. In addition, all other knobs and sliders can be assigned to any CC via a right click on your mouse. As I previously mentioned, there are a few different playback modes to choose from in the kit combos: Poly, Mono, and Legato. These modes change the way the loops play back within each group of instruments. For example, with these guitar loops, if I put the mode to Mono, it only will allow one loop from that group to play back at once. This ensures you have seamless playback between the loops and won't allow more than one loop to be played at one time. The Legato mode works much in the same way in that only one loop can be played back at once, but the big difference is that each loop will pick up where the previous loop ended. This means that if you play the first loop for exactly one measure and then trigger a second loop, it will pick up that loop at the beginning of its second measure. This allows for a lot more musical possibilities within one kit. This will only work though if these loops are played back in a connected way, so you would need to play a second loop while the first loop is still being triggered. If the first loop has already been released, the second loop will play back from its start, as it would in any other playback mode. The Crossfade knob applies to the Legato mode, allowing for shorter or longer crossfades between loops for more natural sounding transitions. Adjusting this from loop to loop can be helpful depending on the type of loop. Looking at the Kontakt keyboard, you can see a range of red keys, along with one green key and one yellow key. The green key is the currently selected key for the kit, and the yellow key is the original key of the kit. Some products have a few different layouts for the kit combos, depending on the type of content from that product's kits. For example, with Cinematic Percussion 3, we have kit combos laid out the same as you've seen so far, but we also have included what we call master patches, which groups together different instruments of a construction kit onto a single key. So you can see by playing E2 on the keyboard, it has triggered multiple loops at once that all work together within the context of that construction kit. You still have all the same mixing options and features of our kit combos, but this makes creating arrangements on the fly really easy and quick. So that's about it for this tutorial of KLI 3.0. You should note that you will need the full version of Kontakt 5 to use this product format. If you don't have Kontakt, then you still have the option to purchase these products in our other format options like Wave, Rex, and Apple Loop. You should also be aware that not every product on the Big Fish Audio website will use our KLI 3.0 update, so take note of which KLI version is being used in that product description. Well, that's about all. Thanks so much for watching.